Welcome, dear students. Today we will begin the history chapter number 3, kinship, caste and class. The slides are taken from HSS Live. So watch the video. You can pause in between and note down the important information. Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras. Whenever we expect some behavioral pattern from others, normally the question arises, from where do you get all this idea? Where are these parameters mentioned that I should behave like this, I should live like this, I should eat like this, I should dress like this? From where do we get all these things, all these practices which we find in our Indian culture? Well, they all are written in Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras. Remember, both are plural, not one Dharma Shastra or Shastras. These are codes of social behavior meant to be followed by Brahmins in particular and society in general. Okay, so Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras are basically written by Brahmins. So Brahmins in Indian society, they have to practice this social behavior, codes of social behavior, and they expect the same thing from other communities also. They are written in Sanskrit. With the emergence of town, people from near and far met to buy and sell their produce and share their ideas in the urban social environment. So remember, when people of different communities interact with one another, so there is always exchange of ideas and culture and practices. Okay, so we find that these things were common that time also. People from different backgrounds, they interacted with one another. So a type of urban social environment was created. You all know that codes of social behavior is very much practiced in rural area. Urban area, we find people are a little bit liberal. This might have led to the questioning of earlier beliefs and practices. In urban social environment, definitely the liberal ideas, the liberal mindset, people with liberal mindset, they begin to question all these beliefs and practices. Therefore, it was to meet this challenge that Dharma Sutra and Dharma Shastras were compiled. So if anyone questions, then Brahmins composed these Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras so that if anyone challenges a question, they can pinpoint to these Shastra and say, see, it is written in this. So in Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastra, you will come across the mentioning of Gotra. Now, in English, of course, we call it Gotra. Gotra refers to the name given to a particular group of people on the name of a Vedic seer as their forefather, so as to establish kinship between them. So this Gotra concept, where did it has its origin? It had its beginning. So in Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastra, it is written that those who wrote Vedas, those seers, those sannyasis, and those scholars, okay, they had their own family, they had their own children. So these Gotras belong to each of these seers, each of these scholars, and this is how the generation in this world, they came out from the family of one of the Vedic seer. So how many Vedic seers were there? Actually, I do not know, that we have to search it from the net. The system of Gotra had significance to the women. Okay, how? Let us see. Women were expected to take up the Gotra of her husband upon marriage and gave up their father's Gotra. So what were the exceptional case for women? Women have to give up her Gotra after her marriage to particular man. So now she will represent that her husband's gotra. So this exceptional case is for women, not for the son, not for the man. Members of same gotra could not marry. Of course, same gotra they could not marry, and we know that this is practiced in our Indian culture. When we examine the names of the women married to the Satvana rulers, we will find that many of them had names derived from their fathers' gotras, such as Gomata or Visishtha. So there are some examples. Okay, Satvana rulers, they retained these names instead of adopting names derived from their husband's gotra as instructed by Brahminical rules. So what do we find in the last point? That there are some exceptional examples where women, after getting married to Satvana rulers, they still carried out their own father's gotra, not their husband's gotra. So these are some of the exceptional rules where Brahminical rules are broken. Some of the women married to Satvana rulers belong to the same gotra, and here also we find the rule is broken. Okay, Satvana rulers, they married women of the same gotra, their own gotra. So we find rules were laid down in Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras, but several times they were not adhered to, they were not practiced. As is obvious, this ran counter to the ideal of exogamy recommended in the Brahminical texts. Okay, we read about exogamy. In fact, it exemplified an alternative practice, that of endogamy or marriage within the kin group, which was prevalent amongst several communities in South India. Such marriages amongst kinfolk ensured a close-knit community. So we find this gotra concept, how it was all started. Okay, but we do find many times this was not practiced. But in present day scenario, the gotra concept, now you can understand, even in Mahabharata it is very clearly mentioned. Now, inscriptional evidence regarding the inheritance of gotra among Satvanas. Inscriptional. Now, there are certain inscriptions written. Okay, and it defines about the inheritance of gotra. Inheritance means whatever property particular gotra among Satvanas will going to have. Were mothers important? Satvana rulers were identified through metronymics, which suggest that mothers were given importance. So in Satvana rulers we find matrilineal concept was followed on, not patrilineal. But their succession to the throne was generally patrilineal. Okay, so mother was highly regarded, but when it came to succession, okay, after the father only the son will take the seat. That was the concept. Several inscriptions of the Satvana rulers mention the name of their mothers rather than their fathers. Example, okay, Gautami Putra Satkarni, son of Gautami. So we find some exceptional cases where matrilineal was predominant. Now, caste social differences within and beyond the framework of caste. Now, caste system, of course, we know in our country today, this caste system is practiced everywhere. Some are who are liberals, who are educating themselves, they do understand that caste system cannot be rigidly followed. So today we find inter-caste marriages, people of different castes mingling and eating together. okay, staying together, working together, studying together, and they become very good friends. Okay, caste refers to a set of hierarchically ordered social categories laid down in Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras. So, from where do we find the idea of caste? It is written in Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras. Who wrote them? The Brahmins wrote them. Okay, Brahmins claim that they were placed themselves on the top and Shudras at the bottom. So in Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras, who are on the top? Brahmins, and who are at the bottom? Shudras. And which two are in between? Kshatriyas and Vaishya. Brahmanas claim that this order was divinely ordained. Now in this Dharma Shastras and Dharma Sutras, Brahmins claim that this order in society is divine, is of divine origin. It is God who has made the social structure. Okay, right occupation as laid down in Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras. So first we understood that caste division was created, and now according to the caste division, the works were also defined for each caste. This particular caste will perform these type of works. Okay, Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras describe the rules about the ideal occupation of the four categories or varnas. So what are the four categories? Number 1, Brahmins. Number 2, Kshatriya. Number 3, Vaishya. Number 4, Shudras. So Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastra define for each category of caste particular jobs. Brahmanas were supposed to study and teach the Vedas, perform sacrifices and get sacrifices performed, give and receive gifts. Okay, so study of scriptures and all thing related to religion, all sacrifices, all puja part, all havan and yajna, Brahmins will going to perform it. Kshatriyas were to engage in warfare, protect people, administer justice, study the Vedas, get sacrifices performed and make gifts. Kshatriyas were given this particular warfare. In other words, they will be rulers, they will be involved in politics, take care of the state, protect the people, administer justice. They can study Vedas. They can call Brahmanas to perform yajna and havan and give them lot of gifts. The Vaishyas were expected to give gifts. Vaishyas were also expected that they should offer gifts to Brahmins, get sacrifices performed, and they should also perform their havan and yajna and call the Brahmins for that, and study Vedas, in addition to engaging agriculture, pastoralism and trade. So if you are involved in trade or pastoralism, pastoralism means animal rearing, agriculture. Okay, so Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastra define all these things. Strategies developed by the Brahmins to enforce the Varna system. So this Varna system was enforced by the Brahmins on Indian society. The Brahmanas developed 3 strategies to enforce the Varna system. So what were those 3 strategies? 3 planning that this Varna system, caste and work according to caste will be imposed, forced upon the people. First, Brahmanas asserted that the Varna order was of divine origin. The first argument is whatever they are saying, the caste division, it is of divine origin. Second, Brahmanas advised the king to ensure that the Varna system was followed within their kingdoms. So Brahmins, they acted like advisor and counselors to the kings and always reminded them of Varna system, and according to Varna system, you should have your kingdom. Third, Brahmanas attempted to persuade the people that their status was determined by birth. So this is how Brahmanas, they laid their focus, they laid this thing before the people, that whatever caste group you are, it all depends upon your birth. So in the beginning, Varna system was according to the work, but later on it became according to the birth.